Season 7, Episode 18, number 283 of the Decoded Podcast, Sunday edition, because we were doing our thing yesterday, Saturday. We were busy. Dad edition, Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, thanks for being flexible to be able to switch the days. I know that doesn't always work because we got things lined up, right? But it works today.
Mm-hmm.
Great on-ramp. We talked about a couple of interesting things. I want to start.
Short and steep.
Short and steep?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Which one do you want to be?
Well, I'm always short, so
I'll be steep. I'll go steep then. Short and steep.
It. And today's a cold coffee.
I noticed that. I saw the straw. I saw
cold coffee.
Do you put any sweetener in here or flavor in that?
I did put a sweetener.
Like what's the
pink one today?
I think pink is NutraSweet.
Okay.
I think that's the universal. I think yellow. Yellow's I think the universal for Splenda, like sucralose.
Right.
I think pink is typically aspartame. And I think now green is creeping up as stevia. I don't know how they do this because I don't think it's branded, but you start to see like the off brands. As soon as an off brand starts to mimic an on brand, then they'll kind of take their color coding and then it starts to reinforce it. It's like how the iPod became the every MP3 player. You know, we tried, but then because everything went tablet style, the iPod, it didn't matter if it was a Zune or some other brand of musical device. It was an iPod. Put your iPod away. Turn your iPod down. Anyway, so you have iced coffee. You got the pink sweetener in it. And is it delicious?
I'm very much enjoying it. So this morning, before we jumped in, I drink veggie greens, and it's cold. So I'm sitting there and I'm chugging that, and I'm loving every minute of that. The taste, the coldness.
You like the veggie greens, eh?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that?
A while now.
What's it do for you? Are you at a point where you can actually understand what it does for you, or is it just part of your routine?
I understand as much as I need to in terms of like getting nutrients and stuff into me that might not happen otherwise. But it also is my body functions when I don't drink it. I feel it the next day.
What do you feel?
I'm not as regular in terms of my body functions.
Like you're talking toilet?
Partly toilet, yeah.
Okay.
It messes up my eating because when I drink it in the morning, it fills me up. I get a lot of. I basically drink a lot of water. It like suppresses my appetite, so I'm not like crazy hungry at 11 o'clock. I notice things. I notice things when it messes up. When I don't do it, when I don't drink it, it messes me up in a number of different ways. I guess
so you've been doing that for a while, eh?
Yeah. So then when I eat at night, it's not because I'm hungry. It's because I'm trying to feed something inside my head that needs some work. But I know that. So it's like, it's very interesting to me. But yeah.
And me.
And you.
It's interesting to me too.
Can we go back, or do you have any more questions about the greens?
No, I'm going to go. I just made a note, Google that shit. So I got to check, because I'm also, and the thing that you get me thinking about is that I tend to try and limit my food intake in the morning. I do more liquids than anything. And then I'll usually between period 1 and 2, I'll have something to eat. So that's around 10 a.m. That's my general practice. On the weekends, I might be prone to having breakfast. But yeah, no, I just hearing you do the veggie greens, I've seen that product. And you say you've been doing it for a couple of years. I'm always I don't take vitamins anymore, but I have like some medications and supplements I take in the morning. And I had mentioned to you, I think 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, that I started taking glucosamine.
Yes.
And
good morning, Gary.
Morning, Gary. So taking the glucosamine tablets That's kind of like the what I'm supposed to be taking is like two of these tablets, and they're pretty big a day. I just take one, and before I took it, coming down the stairs, I could feel it in my knees.
Mm,
My knees were sore. And it took about it's funny because on the package it says and the package says like I can figure what it was, 8 weeks, 12 weeks for it to take effect. And when it says stuff like that, you're like, oh really? But I need relief now. But I kept on taking it all through my training last year. So and at some point, I'm coming down the stairs and I'm just like bup, 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 down the stairs. And your brain isn't it's like it's constantly sending you coded messages, right? And to notice those messages, one is really difficult. To decode them, it's like dream state. So as I'm coming down the stairs and I'm just like da, 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 and the automaticity of it and the smoothness of it, and I'm in the moment, but I'm out of the moment. Like you're just really present.
mhm.
And it's not until I kind of get into the kitchen and I stop. I'm like, what was that? What happened there? Me coming down the stairs, and sometimes like you wake up, you have a dream, you can't catch it. You can't catch it. It's gone. But you've had a dream about chicken wings, but you can't get any of the snaps off it. There's no pics. There's nothing left. It just dissipates. But as I'm standing here, I managed to grab a bit of the idea, and it just kind of surfaces really quick, and it says there was no pain. I'm like, there was no pain. I came down the stairs. There was no pain. So there's a huge delay effect. Like I was sort of on this glucosamine for about a year, and it at some point I forgot that I was having pain walking down the stairs, more so down than up. And I know and then we were out for a little bit, and it's almost like within 2 days, about 2 to 3 days, the ache comes back in. So I like this greens because I've seen the greens before, and I know I want to tweak my morning routine. And unless it's like I guess it's like feast or famine, like because I unless it's a big breakfast we're having, I don't really crave to eat something first thing in the morning. I'm it's probably a zero sum kind of a thing. Like I probably should get something to activate me in some way, but I manage my mornings very well and I'm very productive based on the regimen that I have. Again, long term could be doing damage, don't know. Maybe I should be having more to eat, don't know. So you talking about the greens gives me something to think about because if that's a useful supplement and you're obviously getting your vegetables, I'm sure there's other nutrients that come along with it. I think in the past I've looked at it and I just thought, do I really want to spend the money? Because I think at the time I thought that's kind of expensive. So maybe Costco has it for cheap. I don't know.
I know this. Well, this is good because I wanted to mention I wanted to talk about wellness
Yeah.
and wellness, like as a dad and your kids watching you. So let's keep talking about these greens for a second because so I don't get them from Costco, and I get a certain name brand because there's a couple of different name brands. So I get the one that Amazon will fulfill. Um, so I've got like two track records of the greens. I did the greens many years ago, like over 10 years ago, and where I was working at the time, a bunch of the guys were doing it, and for some people it worked really well, and for some it didn't. Like some guys were like, "I can't do this. I'm literally like I drink it, and then I'm in the bathroom for the rest of the afternoon. It's not working for me, like in a bad way. It's not working for me. It doesn't taste good." On and on and on, right? For me, I was fortunate. So there's different flavors. I've got the coconut pineapple flavor. That's the one I normally get. I have no problem just drinking it with water. Like I have no problem getting a cup of water, putting the greens in, mixing it up, and just drinking it. Some people can't do that or won't. That's fine. The last the last bottle I had, I was running low and I needed them because I've gone times where I have to wait a week to get them and it's not good. Like I told you, I can feel a difference. I can feel a difference with my eating, with my the regularity of my system with respect to using the bathroom, all kinds of stuff. It just threw me off and I didn't like it. I had to get just the regular no flavor, and I was drinking that with water, and was it ideal? Is it ideal? No, but I needed the greens and I wanted them right away. Fast forward to about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was watching YouTube when I was on the treadmill, and this bodybuilder dude I was watching, he made this drink and he used pineapple juice instead of water. And something happened. I felt a tickle in my mouth, like I just craved the pineapple juice after I watched him make his drink. Went to Costco because at Costco they've got the Dole pineapple, like pineapple in a can. Um, Dole, Del Monte, something, pineapple juice from the Philippines in the can. Supposedly, is what it says on the can. And I just bought a bunch of those 12 packs. And now what I do is I throw one in the fridge in the morning before uh, I go on the treadmill so that when I'm done, it's freezing cold. Pour it into my vessel, put the greens in, mix it up. And it tastes like heaven. And I just love it. As I'm talking to you, I'm craving it again, but the pineapple juice is not for fun drink. The pineapple juice is to drink my greens, and it works. It tastes friggin' fantastic. I feel full. So this morning I had really cold pineapple juice with my greens, and then as I was getting ready for coffee, I'm like, I'm going cold today. I'm just doing cold drinks this morning. There's my iced coffee. So I want to bump unless you've got something to say about all that. No.
No, I like it. I'm gonna look into it. I at one point I kind of had like a smoothie routine. Another like I had a bunch of different things. I'm sure greens comes in different, like you said, different formula. Not only different flavors, but I'm sure like greens is a. And I don't know if you're doing greens the brand name or greens the concept, but I know that it is a brand name. It's like the iPod.
It's like
There's
Kleenex,
yeah,
right?
there's an original copy that's actually called, I think, the Greens or Greens. I can even think I can remember the original container and the marketing for it, but I'm sure there's other copies that are doing something similar. If you get a chance, just drop me the link on Amazon for the product. I'll take a peek at it. I'm gonna start looking into it because I want something. I'm 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 there. I'm thinking about my morning routine, and as I often do, what's a different thing to optimize? And
Mhm.
I've stopped sort of like trying to deke out my wellness here and try multiple things. I'm starting to realize like if I do test drive this, I probably need to give it a 3 or 4 month go and see am I noticing because I think there's some things that your body is reactive to right away, but an older body also sometimes takes some time to give up the control, to give up, to shake things loose and to start moving in a different direction. I think that's, what I noticed about the glucosamine because it wasn't immediate, right? So I'm taking these horse pills for 3 4 months. And then the funny thing happens is it becomes part of your routine. So you're no longer thinking about taking the horse pills. So you've successfully included the routine in your day. And it's only sometime thereafter that some of the benefits start to pop up,
Mhm.
right? And I guess if your routine relieves, like I think there's certain things that you notice right away, like pain. If it's gone, it's gone. And I think that's why people like Tylenol and ibuprofen. Like you include that in your routine, you can become pain free really, really quick. Pain, if you're trying to reduce pain or inflammation either through exercise or other means, no, like not using a short term, then it's more difficult, right? It's a lot more difficult to sort of maintain that investment. So I like this. I like this. Thanks, man, for Sunday. I like this. I like we're sort of leaping off with wellness, and I love how you've triggered something in the back of my head about that's on a back desk checklist. Like figure out a better morning routine to kind of like just like launch you. The other thing I've been looking into, and it's Joe Rogan, bless his heart, but he talks about he has a mushroom. I've heard a lot about I don't know, is it lion's mane? There's some mushroom we're not talking like psychedelics here, but there's a mushroom that many people have said improves cognitive ability. or helps maintain cognitive ability and focus. So once I figure out the greens, that's my next thing.
So to throw a wrench into all this, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I sent you the link.
Mm-hmm.
So I use the Progressive. The company's called Progressive, and it's called Veggie Greens, and that's what I've been using the entire time, right from the like 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the berry. They have one for berries. It's called Phyto Berry, and I've had that before too, and that's delicious. So I would drink one in the morning. I would drink one at night. The Phyto Berry would give me like the sweet. Like I remember my doctor telling me this because I was talking to my doctor years ago about, why do you eat at night? Well, there's a number of different reasons. One of them is I'm craving something sweet. Like I want chocolate because it's sweet, and I want gummy bears because they're sweet, type of thing. So he was like, "Well, you're drinking the greens in the morning. Why don't you drink the berry stuff at night? It's sweet. You can
Mm-hmm.
make a smoothie or whatever." He's like, "Going down that road is a lot healthier than what you are currently doing. So it's up to you, but it's an alternative." And I remember getting it. It's also like they claimed superfood supplement type of thing. So
Yep.
tried that. That was delicious too. I can't remember what the benefits were, but I know the benefits of the veggie greens in the morning. It sets me up real nice for the day. Just like getting on the treadmill in the morning sets me up for the day on a number
Yep.
of different levels. And then it's up to me to sabotage it later. If if I make the right choices, I'm good to go. But when I don't start my mornings like that, it can go either way, 50-50. Whereas with the greens, it's 75% and up, in my opinion. Anyway, I look forward to talking more about this with you later, but it's like I'm not gonna eat a salad for lunch. It's just not gonna, like, it could happen, but there's no motivation to eat a salad at lunch or a salad in the evening. It's just no motivation. I don't I It's just not something I do. I don't feel the need to do it. So by drinking the greens, it's I'm doing something positive, and I don't have to eat a bowl of salad. Not that I dislike salad. It's just I'm not gonna if I'm coming home to stop between, Kitchener and Waterloo, and I get to eat lunch and then get back in the car and go to work. I'm just not gonna make a salad, I don't think. So anyway, I want to shift into like the idea of wellness,
Mm-hmm.
physical wellness, mental wellness. When I was a kid, I never saw my parents do anything to help their wellness. If they did it, they didn't
Mm-hmm.
do it in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to,
It's
well,
kind of messed. It's messed up when you
it
call that
is,
out, isn't
it
it?
is.
Isn't it kind of messed up? Like even if you remove what I would say currently, we have a hypersensitive focus. I think collectively on wellness. I think we do. I think I would say generally a hypersensitive, but it is kind of fascinating that like they talk about we often talk about being raised as an '80s kid. Well, the people raising '80s kids were the '80s parents. Right? So we don't often kind of say, yeah, well, as the '80s kids are eating dirt and climbing trees and staying out until, you know, staying out in all hours of the night, never calling home, you had parents at home too, kind of like hanging out in small kitchens and smoking cigarettes with each other and yeah, it could be weed,
Well,
could be whatever, but also like, unleaded gas. Like I think was it late '70s we're switching from leaded to unleaded, so we're our understanding of wellness has taken a like we the fact that we can still gather our memory and think about our parents' choices. That's a really heady and sort of fascinating moment just to park on. I didn't see it either. My mom did nothing, absolutely nothing.
the wellness was like, if we were to step back and take a look at what we know today and look at the 80s and the early 90s, I guess the wellness was having the neighbors come over and sit in that small kitchen and talk, so the social time, and have their coffee and take their darts. I mean, because we do talk about being social and stuff. This podcast is part of our wellness, I would argue. This
Hmm.
ability to reflect,
No argument for me. No argument for me.
not this time. Take time
Yeah.
to chat, be intentional about what we're doing and why we're doing it. This is this is wellness. It's part of our plan, I believe. I think part of their plan was, even though they were smoking and sitting and drinking coffee, they were being social. They were they were sharing, they were letting off steam. So, yeah, in one way it was good for them, but not in the same way that maybe we're functioning now. Like just the other day my wife sold the elliptical trainer she bought before both kids were born. And as it was being taken away, we were reminiscing, like, do you remember when we got the machine? And then do you remember when our oldest was born and we would jump on it when he was asleep and see how long we could go before he woke up and we had to get him? Like, my kids have grown up watching my wife and I both do some of that physical activity, um, telling them, I'm going to go exercise now. If you want to come with me, you can, or I'm going to go for a walk because I want to move and breathe in the fresh air. My kids have grown up hearing that, not to the same extent as other fit moms and dads, but enough to be like, okay, so there is time for the fast food, but there's also time for the exercise and the benefits that come with that. This has all been spoken about in my house, just like it's been spoken about in your house, and it continues. I never saw that. I never saw my father try to exercise, ever, or my mother. Never. So growing up, it wasn't a thing. Like, I remember every year when I would go to the doctor for my checkup. Remember that? Like, that was like you go at least once a year. Now it's like
Mhm.
you go if you got a problem. There's no once a year thing in from what I see. I would go to my doctor. The doctor would always say the same thing to my mom. And the doctor was she was Egyptian slash Middle Eastern. So,
Mhm.
you know, all the Arab people wanted this doctor for their kid because she understood the culture and stuff.
Mhm.
Every year the same thing. I'd get on the scale, I'd get off the scale, we'd do all the normal things, and I would sit on the doctor bed or whatever you call that thing, and she'd look at my mom, she'd say, "You're feeding him too much." It was hilarious. I wasn't even part of the equation. "You're feeding him too much." My mom would say, "But, he likes to eat." And they would do the same band every year my whole life, right?
But he likes to
"But
eat.
he likes to eat, doctor." And the doctor's like, "He's a little bit overweight. What does he do?" My mom's like, "He plays hockey." She's like, "Well, if the hockey goes away, he'll explode." Like, it was the only thing that kept me the only reason why the doctor didn't smoke me was probably because I played hockey and she knew that there was a lot of that happening all winter long. So
Mhm.
it was always the same conversation. It was always the doctor would say, "How's Tony?" My dad, my mom's like, "He's good." And she's like, "Is he still smoking?" My mom's like, "Yeah." Same conversation every friggin' time. I don't even know, other than getting together with friends, and my dad would say smoking was part of his wellness plan. Go figure,
Mhm.
right? Because it would relieve
I've
his
I've heard
stress
that.
and
I've
stuff.
heard that
Yeah.
saying when it's associated with the chemical calming effect and the
Yes.
habitual anxiety that can sometimes come along with the job. That was something similar said about my grandmother that would actually do. You're going to continue to be harmed by the cigarette,
Mm,
but the harm that would come from changing the habit and the anxiety that would boost, you'd be creating an excessive fire in a different place.
right.
Yeah. So.
And I think I've told you this 100 times. Maybe I haven't. I remember my dad saying to me when my dad quit smoking after he had some heart problems, he eventually later on started smoking again. And this time he was completely unapologetic about it to us. Because my brother, sister, and I, we were like, "Dad, what the frig are you doing? Like, you're literally killing yourself." And I remember him saying, "This is the only thing that brings me comfort. Smoking makes me feel good, and it is the only thing that is helping me in this life right now, in the way, like, I mean, aside from us, he was like, this is it." And my dad would drink on special occasions, but he wasn't a drinker. you know he had a sedentary job, sedentary lifestyle, so he was like,
What a thing to say, though, eh? Like,
well,
talk about a totally different language because I remember these exact same things being said. My
okay,
dad
so
bringing himself to tears one time saying that he's going to quit. So that's the one part of the brain telling him this is creating health problems.
So my dad
And
did quit, right?
okay,
But then he was like, "F it. This life without it sucks."
same
It's
with
the
my dad.
it's the only thing it brings me. It's the only thing that brings me joy.
Hmm.
It makes me feel good, and I like it. So I'm gonna keep doing it. And I remember my sister kept hounding him, and I remember arguing with my sister and saying, the guy just told us. Like he's been up and down, up and down. Look at the life he's living. I remember saying to my sister, I'm like, if that's not an example to get an education and get a job, because that's how it worked in the 90s, right? You went to
Well said.
university and you, like, whatever, college, university, and you get a job and you'd have a job. I'm like,
Hmm.
this is what it looks like to not have a job. Like, came from Lebanon, no education, entrepreneur type guy. I didn't want that for me. And I remember saying to my sister, look at the life dad's lived. Like, not ideal, high stress. If smoking cigarettes brings him joy and he's telling us that, I'm not going to bug him anymore. Because before I thought he was just being lazy. Now he's being intentional, actually. He's like, no, I'm doing this. I know it's killing me, but I'm doing this because I like it. Makes me feel good. I got nothing else.
Yeah,
And you
that
know what?
sometimes
I understood. I was like, you're right. You don't have anything else. You got us, but
there's definitely an element of elitist thinking, and someone that dares to do that probably hasn't yet put themselves through a regimen of change, right? Like
so
we just, yeah.
okay, fast forward to you and I today, dads, professionals. We make time for our wellness. We make time because we know the benefits it brings. But more than that, my kids are seeing both their parents trying to function in a way that's going to extend life, make us feel better, and help us deal with stress. And both of them are active, like both the boys do stuff, but I never saw it. They see it all the time. They see it all the time when their mom's on the machine or I'm on the machine or lifting weights or whatever. They're like, they'll come down, they'll chat. And I know sometimes I'll say to them, "Hey, if this can wait, can it wait? Because I don't want to get pissed off and fall off the machine or whatever because we're having a conversation that can wait until I'm not working out. Like, what do you need that's so important?" It's just funny. We're having conversations while I'm exercising or their mom's exercising or whatever, right? And it's just,
Hmm.
I just think when we were talking in the on ramp, I was thinking, how did our parents invest in their wellness? And yeah, I talked about, neighbors coming over and the chit chat and the coffee and stuff, but my parents never went for a walk. Like, we take my wife, and I know you've done this, we take our kids, we go to a forest and we go for a walk
Hmm.
in nature. Like, this is something we've done. Um, that never happened at all when I was a kid. It was get in the car, let's go for a drive. Maybe we get Dairy Queen. And the whole time as my dad was sucking back the smoke, so were we, because we were inside his boat of a car, just breathing it all in. So this is interesting to me, this idea of wellness, investing in our wellness, but also sharing it in a way with our kids. Um, it's funny sometimes the kids will be like, "Where's mom?" I'm like, "I don't know. She's upstairs in our room." They're like, "What do you?" Okay, I'm gonna go check in on her, and I'll be like, "Hey, make sure that you listen at the door first because she might be meditating." So she does like a guided meditation. So her phone's
Hmm.
beside her and it's talking to her, right? And sometimes she's got headphones on. So I'm like, she could be meditating. So don't, if you knock lightly on the door, nobody answers, let it go for 10 minutes and come back. So it's funny because I'm like, she could be meditating, right? She could be doing something for her wellness that I know she does, that the kids, I think maybe it's invisible to them when we're trying to do something for ourselves for a little bit. Invest in your wellness. And I think it's a big deal as parents. And it's a big deal for the kids to see it happen so they can learn about these strategies and they can incorporate wellness into their world and they can see the benefits
Hmm.
from it. That's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say. Um, and, 39 minutes ago I wanted to talk about this, and this is where we are now. I love it though.
Well, but I think this is also just the path to our discussions, right? Like there's a necessary, I don't know, there's always a necessary sort of distracted path to get back to whatever topic we want to talk about. So I appreciate the tolerance just to kind of walk through that, because you really sparked me up with that. How we talk about it. When my dad, I can remember early, my dad was doing, he played baseball, so he played on a lob ball team, and I think one of the things I think about, when you include wellness in your life, is that unless you specifically, so your kids watching you is only one component. Passively observing someone do wellness things, I don't think is enough. I think you also have to talk about the benefits of those wellness things. And I think that's why I was kind of pressing you about the greens, because, I can do a Google search and I can get sort of like information. But when I think back to, and so I can get like, so that's passive observation, right? You're taking greens, you enjoy the benefits. I want benefits. I want to have, a morning routine that helps me. So, but unless we talk more about it, and when I said like, what's the noticeable thing, then it's too passive. And I think about when my dad played lob ball, there was never a discussion about how that made him feel good. There was never a discussion. And I think that's the two part of any lesson, right? You give the information and then you interact with it. You break it down, you test drive it, you go away, you come back. The expectation that I was going to just live a healthy life because I watched my dad play baseball, I now thinking back, is not enough. I think you also have to engage in the debate and discussion and the tweaking as how do you adjust it so it's even better? How do you adjust it so it's even more personalized? How do you move from, okay, you tried lob ball, but maybe that's not the one for you. But are you still curious? Do you want to try, baseball? Do you want to go over to soccer? Or like your kids seeing you and your spouse either meditating or the family going for a walk. I think that there's a certain amount of returning to the subject that needs to be done. Like to check in, like, hey kids, I know you saw me on the treadmill. What are you doing? And I think that's where my parents fell short. There was no follow-up other than you have your doctor's appointment next week. Let's go. There was no real discussion about living a life well, or living a healthy life. None. I don't know if that was your experience too, but like I think that creates a real gap in a lot of ways. And I didn't really have a circle of individuals that were also pushing me. So I didn't have a peer group that I felt connected, or that gregariousness and extroversion. I was introverted too much, so I didn't really feel any need for an external locus of connection. Like they didn't light me up. I did that for myself. So I think the one-to-one conversations that my dad could have had with me probably would have been a more powerful persuader, for sure. I'm still here. I just got to plug something in.
Yeah, no problem. You hit a lot of good points there. You hit a lot of good points. It's just the whole thing's interesting to me. I think being intentional is very important with the kids. Um, I know I'm having this conversation right now with my youngest. Uh, you know, Part of the intention, in my opinion, means like you got intention, you got purpose, you got goals. What do you do to meet those goals? So I'm in right now. My youngest and I are talking about how he's preparing himself for hockey tryouts in May. And we've landed on, a routine that he could follow in order to prepare himself better. Then we look at that and then we go to, okay, well, is this going to guarantee me success? And my response is there is no guarantee of success. but I guarantee you not doing any of this will certainly lead to failure. And then it's silence, and it's just like two people just staring at each other. So I'm like, let me say that again. Not doing any of this will guarantee failure. Doing this will increase your chances of success. And if you don't, and I believe, and this is like the tree hugger rolling part of me, okay? The tree hugger. If you don't make a certain hockey team in May, whatever your process is to prepare for that is going to run into the summer, and it's going to run into the fall when you start high school and decide whether you want to try out for the football team, which then you'll be totally ready in terms of like your conditioning and your strength. You will go into that with a lot of confidence and with your body ready to do those types of movements and actions, and or more hockey tryouts depending on where you want to try out. So you'll feel better and you'll function better. So okay, you can do all this and not make the team in May and think you're a failure, but really you're not. Because if we just take that little bit, the purpose is to try to help you with that, with May. That's the purpose. But put that aside for a second and take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Exercising and improving your strength is not going to harm you other than take your time away, which, what are you going to do with that time? And then it's the
And
nothing.
we often know, but we don't often say what we right. We know what we do at that time. Um,
Nothing. Or nothing as
or
good.
a thing, but right. It could be something deleterious. It could be something
Right.
harmful. It could be something neutral. It could be something beneficial. But we don't sit in that space and say, okay, well, what bucket is it in? And as you're saying, you got me thinking of, right away, my brain kind of thought about collateral damage. But what about collateral benefits? And I think that's what you're talking about here, as in, just living a we won't even say active, but even just walking every day means that you can keep walking, or you actually are reinforcing brain connections, muscle memory, and reinforcing that skill of walking. In class just on Friday, I said to the kids, they said, why are we still so in our numeracy block, we're working on unit price. And we spent the whole week working on unit price from different angles for them to understand it. Just prior to that, we were doing taxes, we're doing HST calculations. We did a whole week on that. And part of it is that I keep saying to them, I said, I don't teach you this so that you can be good at it in the classroom. We go through this so that you can use it in life. And I said, these types of lessons are push-ups. You don't do push-ups to get better at push-ups. You do push-ups so that when you're getting up out of a chair, or you're lifting, a heavy grocery bag, or you slip and you can actually grab and hold on, and you have enough strength to hold yourself to security and stability. And then you can, like, okay, I'm good. You can actually do, like, your fall prevention. I said, that's why you do I mean, sure, you can do push-ups just to get bigger arms and shoulders, and, you can do that too. But that collateral benefit of just doing some push-ups every single day, as opposed to, because the body degrades. So unless you're actively doing things to either maintain or improve, the body degrades. Biological thing. That's what happens. So I like this idea of, like, this collateral benefit. And you and I have both talked about that, how one skill or one resource or one improvement can have a cascade effect over other elements of your life. I had an immediate response just to being like, as I pushed myself to get up and get on the treadmill, I noticed right away the endorphin focus I get for the first 2 hours of the day. I get off that. I'm just like boom, 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 boom. Like, my morning just clacks along. The key then is, what's the thing that you need to daisy chain with that to get through your day? So you can do another thing that sort of maintains that potential that your body's just telling you it can do, or your mind is telling you it can do, or your spirit or soul is saying it can do. I love that. I love this idea. I love it so much. It's very hopeful, and I'm not a hopeful person. I'm not naturally a hopeful person. I need moments like this to remind me of the technical side and the sort of access point to hope.
I this is right now, this is the big talk in our house for a number of different reasons. And it helps me too, right? Like they look at me, they're like, "Oh, there goes dad again." You know, dad's this and dad's that. And I'm like, "Hey, if we can just put aside dad trying to build some couple of guys here who can be like good people and learn how to get through rough times, your dad's using the same strategies every day." Right? Like constantly. Um, I've successfully moved in a better direction around dealing with bad news. What do you do with that? Do you get down? Because before I started this job that I'm in now, one of the concerns from my wife, who knows me well, is this isn't going to work for you because you're going to be up against um, negative situations all day long, every day. And I was like, you know what? I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that. And I need to be aware so that I don't live in the dumps. And look at what happened. It's turned out to be one of the best jobs I've had in my
Mhm.
career thus far.
From the outside, I would absolutely agree. Like, I
That's
don't
cool too,
think,
because you are on the outside, right? Like,
yeah, the growth that you've experienced, the synergy, the connecting what may before felt like disparate kind of pieces of your pedagogy and your your philosophy of education. I think it's ed your, some of your seed points of being a counselor. Like, I think this has been a vibrant few years for you.
I think they forget that I use this every day too. I use it every day. I stack my wins because I work with a lot of loss. I don't
Mhm.
want to be like that. And I don't want to come home and not be able to I don't want to come home in a bad mood. I don't want to come home and think negatively of my day, and I don't want to wake up the next morning and think negatively of my work. So, in a weird way, the job I do has helped build me into a more positive person, but not a blind positive person. You've heard
Mhm.
my stories. I'm happy to tell you about the BS that I experience all day, but I have to learn to snap out of that. I have to learn to snap out and be positive because some of the people around me are negative. There's nothing, I got to tell you, from the outside looking into the classroom, there's nothing worse to me than seeing a teacher become demoralized because of a student not attending school. So I
Mhm.
currently am working with a teacher who said something the other day like, "I'm not usually like this, but I'm close to giving up on this kid." And I'm not judging the teacher. I just feel like, oh my God, like if the teacher's starting to feel that way, hopeless, and we can't fix this, then what's going to happen when the kid does occasionally come into the room? Is the teacher going, like, the teacher's given up on the kid because the kid's never there? And the teacher is becoming demoralized by me sharing the daily occurrences, which are negative. I even said to the principal, I'm like, "Do you want me to keep informing both of you on what's happening?" The principal's like, "Yep." And I said, the reason why I'm asking that question is because the teacher seems to be like it's working against them, not for them. I'm like, "You're the principal. You need to know what's going on. Does the teacher really need to know?" And he's like, "Just keep communicating with both of us when you do." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll keep doing that." But I'm seeing the teacher kind of lose the light, and enter into the darkness. And I'm like, you just treat him well when he gets there if you can. That's all I'm asking you to do, because there's all these layers and I'm actually exposing them all to you because your principal has asked me to keep you in the loop. So you're getting updates daily on what many people would call BS. I don't know if it's really BS or not, but I do know that it's not positive. So it's like, I don't want to live in the dark. And because I work in the dark, I feel like I'm always looking for the light and I want to be. So I'm doing breathing exercises during the day. I'm meditating. I'm talking to you. I'm doing things that I feel are arming me with, like, they're helping me become more resilient. They're helping me be positive, but in a realistic way. And I'm 100 times more grateful for the life I live and the family I have and everything I have. Because when I was a kid, I didn't have any of that. I have it now. I like it. And the people I work with don't have it. They could one day if they would flip the switch and do what's in their control, but they're not living like that. So my kids are seeing this, and I never saw it from my parents. I never saw it from my parents. I played hockey because I liked it, but there were some great benefits to it. Like, when the season would start, I'd be huffing and puffing. When the season would end, I'd feel like the Hulk. Like I can do anything because I'm stronger. I was more in shape. I was hanging out with my buddies, laughing, joking, building memories and relationship. There's a picture I posted on Facebook, or somebody posted and tagged me. It's one of our hockey pictures from when I was like, I don't know, 13 to 15, one of those years. And when I look at that picture, I don't remember the hockey. I remember the amazing times we had together as a group. I can pick out each guy and tell you a story about them.